Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on Look Beautiful and Feel Youthful. Today, we have with us, a panel which is rich with experience to guide us on our hair care and our skincare queries. So, I am going to be inviting all the panelists to come on board and talk to us about skincare and hair care. Here we go with our first panelist, Dr. Kruti Banodkar. Dr. Kruti Banodkar is a dermatologist with great experience to share. Dr. Kruti, why don't you share a little about yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Bhavi. Thank you at the outset for inviting me on this most esteemed panel to give my views. It feels as if it's a great honor. Thank you so much. So, I am Dr. Kruti
Our pleasure.
Banodkar. Thank you. I am Dr. Kruti Banodkar. I am a dermatologist, trichologist, and a cosmetic dermatologist practicing in Matunga Central in Mumbai. My clinic is called Skin Crest Clinic. It is situated near Five Gardens. It is a state of the art clinic where we deal with all concerns regarding skin, hair, and nail. And we are well equipped with lasers and all the other instruments that we need to take care of any concerns regarding skin, hair, and nail. Thank you.
Superb. So before we get started, we'll get all the panelists on board and get started with each one of you. Uh, so our next panelist is Dr. Dimple, who again is a very dear friend, a good friend of mine, and is dermatologist. You have seen Dr. Dimple live with us earlier too on our PCOS series, and here we bring her back today to talk all about hair and skin, so that you guys get a fair idea of to address your hair and skin concerns. Uh, Welcome, Dr. Dimple, to the panel discussion. And, it's always a pleasure talking to you. So could you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Bhavi. It's always a pleasure to come on a panel discussion with you. Thank you once again for inviting me on today's meet on skin and hair care. Let me
My
introduce
pleasure.
myself. Yeah, I'm Dr. Dimple Bhankaria, practicing cosmetic dermatologist, trichologist, and aesthetic laser expert, practicing in Matunga and Dadar for the past 18 years. And I'm very passionate about cosmetic dermatology, aesthetic dermatology, and I keep trying my best to get trained and get updated in the best treatments which are available. And our clinic currently is in Dadar East. It's by the name of Divine Skin and Hair Clinic, and we have the lasers like the hair removal lasers and the pigmentation lasers and all sorts of treatments. And we treat, of course, pure dermatology also. So all those also come in our purview. Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, and very recently, I just have understood that you actually believe a lot in holistic approach, and you have also started with inviting a psychologist and a psychiatrist
Yes,
to your clinic.
yes,
So when you
yes,
sent out that message to me, I really felt so good because
yes.
I guess we are all moving. Resonates in terms
Correct.
of when it comes to health. It's holistic approach, and you treat the person. So it's wonderful to know about what you
Yes.
started at your
It's
clinic
yet to
again.
start
So
soon.
thank you
It's
so
yet to
much.
start. We are almost ready with it now. Thank you.
Okay, you're okay. So
Almost
I
ready
wish
with
you
it.
wish
Yeah.
you good
Thank
luck
you.
for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our next panelist is Miss Deepa Chahal, and she is the founder of Amira Naturals, a very premium brand for natural products for your skin and hair. We are going to allow her to talk more about herself. Uh, Welcome, Deepa, and it's so good to see you. We are e-meeting after a very long time, so pleasure to have you on the panel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moody. In fact, I feel privileged to be on this platform, and thank you for inviting me on this discussion on skin and hair care. And because you have got dermatologists, so I'm a little different in the approach, probably because I am an alternative healer and founder of Amira Naturals, as you have already introduced me. And we are trying to use essential oils and herbs and plant ingredients to make our formulations, right? And it was founded about three years back. Like, we started manufacturing commercially, and our mission is to provide clean, conscious, and caring skincare to all. And we use very
Super.
simple formulas. Yeah, we don't go into very complicated formulations, because I believe that less is more. You don't need any synthetic
Absolutely.
fillers. And being from Uttarakhand, I'm trying to kind of use the herbs from Uttarakhand. As you know, Uttarakhand is famous for aromatic plants and herbs. So we
Uh,
are trying
it's
to,
it's
yeah.
it's a dream. It's a dream place to be, and you are actually there. So I don't know what more to say.
Yeah, it is a dream place to be, and we are trying to bring Uttarakhand on the world map as far as skincare is concerned. Yeah,
Wow,
so
that's
I hope,
wonderful.
yeah, one
No,
day,
I
probably,
have been, I have personally used your products, and I know how good they are. So definitely, you are going to make a mark for sure,
thank
and
you
all the
so much.
best
Thank you so much,
with
Dr.
achieving
Modi.
your dreams. So
Thank
we'll
you so
just,
much.
yeah, so we'll just get started with Uh, yeah, so as we're all talking about looking good and feeling youthful, I'm sure our viewers are going to be having many queries with regards to how are you going to look good and how are you going to feel young. So let's get started with Dr. Dimple. If I have to ask you 5 tips for skincare that will make them look youthful and make them look beautiful, what are your going to be of the 5 tips that you are going to share with our viewers?
So the first and foremost is having a good skincare routine in the form of cleansing the face twice a day with a face wash appropriate for your age, for the weather, and for your skin type. So that would be the first thing, cleansing, then using a good toner, which is alcohol free, so that doesn't irritate the skin, using a moisturizer, a sunscreen with SPF more than 30, exfoliating once a week. So that is the first thing. That is a skincare routine. Secondly, they must have a healthy diet. Nothing can replace other than having a healthy diet, devoid of any junk or any kind of processed food in their uh, food, and having an adequate sleep. 8 hours sleep is a must. Drinking a lot of water, though that is sometimes overhyped, having 8 glasses of water or 2 liters of water. Have water according to your body's requirement. And exercise, very important to improve the blood circulation, maintaining a stress free life, practicing relaxation techniques. All these go a long way in making you look youthful.
Wonderful. I think this very much resonates with what we are doing on Your Health in Your Hands every single day, talking about, having a good routine set for yourself in a way that you have a stress-free life. At the same time, you are making small, changes to your everyday routine to accommodate your, food, having a healthy food habit plus exercise routine. So I think I completely resonate with you on this. Dr. Kruti, would you like to add something to this? Your 5 tips that you would want to share?
Sure, thank you so much. When we are right now in this pandemic, I think most of us, are finding it very difficult to look beyond this pandemic. So I will add some tips more
Yes.
relevant to the pandemic. So the most prominent thing these days is our gadget use, the screen time that we all are getting. And I think because of that screen time, most of us have tanned a lot. So the basic idea is that to prevent this kind of tanning, one must wear a sunscreen even when they are indoors. And that will really help to prevent the dullness, the lack of glow, and the tanning that we all are experiencing. So my tip would be that we should all wear a sunscreen at least 3 times a day if possible, even though we are indoors, because there is definitely UV rays that is filtering through the windows, and also the gadget use is quite optimum these days. I think many of us are, at a stretch for 8 to 10 hours, also working on our laptops, etc. And yes, definitely cooking time has also increased. So cooking gas is another reason as to why we may be tanning so much. So please do wear a sunscreen round the clock unless you're in bed and the lights and the mobile phones are both switched off. So I have taken, a thing to tell people that make sure that even when you're going to bed, your mobile phones are also switched off, because that is a very prominent source of light and it can also tan. So that's the most basic skincare tip that I'd like to share. And yes, as Dr. Dimple said, a skincare routine is very important. So face wash, moisturizer, and a sunscreen. And definitely we need to eat well, hydrate ourselves well, and de-stress ourselves. Exercise forms a very important part of de-stressing, but along with exercise, even if yoga, meditation, dance, whatever you can do to de-stress yourselves, currently I think that is a very important part of our lives, and we all should try to do that. And in terms of food, I would encourage people to have foods which are rich in antioxidants. So basically, colored fruits and vegetables, red, orange, yellow is what I advocate. Have more of those. It enhances the skin. Have more of vitamin C containing foods. So that'll be the citrus fruits, etc. So try and inculcate these things in your diet, and it'll definitely take you a long way in maintaining a good and healthy skin. So these are my tips towards a skincare routine.
Absolutely wonderful. I think it's a complete package that you guys have given out here. Deepa, I would want to ask you that do we have any essential oils that would prevent tanning? As rightly pointed out by Dr. Kruti and Dr. Dimple, that we are undergoing a lot of tanning these days, and anything that would actually add that extra glow to the face.
You see, one product which I'm really fond of, and if you talk about tanning in particular, is vitamin C serum. You see, one, it is water based and it can be easily used in the humid conditions, because right now it is so humid that nobody wants to put heavy oils or creams or moisturizers. So I believe that right now the best thing which you can use for tanning and of course nourishing and hydrating your skin is vitamin C serum. Because when we talk about exfoliation, like Dr. Dimple was saying, exfoliation should be till deeper layers of the skin, and vitamin C tends to exfoliate from the deeper levels. It penetrates deep inside, so it's not superficial. And try to use a lot of like very very light exfoliators. Like most of the people, they are using coarse grains like basin and all. Sometimes they can be quite abrasive, so you have to use exfoliators which are very very mild to your skin. As it is in humid conditions, your skin is more prone to acne and breakouts. So right now you have to take an extra care for your skin, but still never forget the three major things, that is exfoliation, cleansing, and hydration. Even if you feel that your skin is very sweaty and you don't need any moisturizer, still use a moisturizer, because to maintain the skin barrier, it is very important to keep on moisturizing your skin. But switch over to something lighter like water based, aloe vera, or basically gel based and water based products. Yeah.
Agree, absolutely agree to you. So here I would want to ask Dr. Dimple and Dr. Kruti, how often should one exfoliate? Because since we're talking of exfoliation, it's not something that you do every day. CTM is something that you do on a daily basis, but exfoliation is something that you're not going to do on a daily basis. So then how often and what products can be used? Like Deepa mentioned that you should be using something which is very, mild and gentle on your skin. But do you feel that there are products which you should be using for exfoliation? So how to go about it and what to use? Dr. Dimple, if you could start first, please.
Yes. So exfoliation, I don't think you should go beyond more than once a week. If you have a sensitive or an acne prone skin, you can even do once in 10 days, because otherwise your skin gets more inflamed and irritated, because you're stimulating the oil glands to produce more oil and making it more inflamed. But if you have a normal skin, or you have a dry skin, or an aging mature skin, then maybe twice or thrice a week is also okay, because at that age the cell turnover has started reducing when you are maturing. and that time you may need more exfoliation. So it all depends on your age and skin type again. So once a week is what in general what we tell them. And products, you have to check the scrub. The scrub should not have very harsh or rough particles. You have to first test it out. They should be very fine particles. So you can choose of a good brand, but you ask them for a tester, select the one with the finest particles, and try and use natural based products rather than very harsh chemical containing products. If you're using a home remedy like a home product, then even rice flour, the finely powdered rice flour with honey or mixed with aloe vera could serve as a good scrub. Or you can even powder sugar to the finest possible size and then use it as a scrub, or oatmeal powder. These are some natural.
Wow, that's wonderful. These are wonderful remedies. I feel, it's just straight out from the kitchen, so we don't need to actually go out anywhere. Everything is just in your kitchen. That's wonderful. So Dr. Kruti, what is the method for exfoliation? How are you going to exfoliate the skin? Because I know generally what people tend to use is a walnut scrub, readily available, and ghiste jata till everything turns red. So how are you going to actually exfoliate, and what is it that you suggest as means for exfoliation? Any products that you would like to suggest?
Sure. So what happens is that there are two kinds of exfoliations that are there. One is the chemical exfoliation and the other is the physical exfoliation. So physical exfoliation is not very well known, or nor is it practiced too widely, because sometimes physical exfoliation, especially in our brown skinned individuals, we are Asians, so we are more prone to pigmentation. So when we use physical methods, like there are some brushes that are available which you can rub over your face, so these can cause pigmentation. So it is important to understand that we must not ape the West, and we should try and not use a lot of physical exfoliation for that matter. Chemical exfoliation is what I usually recommend to a patient, and once a week is the ideal time that I usually suggest. It could be in patients having dry skin, spaced out more than once a week, maybe once in 2 weeks is also all right. But if a patient has oily skin, then once a week is ideal. So what I usually tell the patient is that don't be harsh on your skin, love your skin, be gentle on your skin. So when you take a scrub, be it synthetically manufactured or made in the kitchen, be gentle, take little quantity, rub very gently over your skin in circular motions, maybe just for 5 to 7 minutes and not beyond that. Make sure that you're not turning your skin very, irritated and red, because that is going to show inflammation, dryness of the skin. So make sure to avoid that. And the products that I usually recommend are products which are very gentle on the skin. For example, I usually recommend glycolic acid, lactic acid, mandelic acid based products, and these serve as good scrubs. I also at the same time counsel the patient that if you are using retinoids, people with pimples usually use retinoid based creams,
yes,
or they use benzoyl peroxide. These are very common treatments that we give for acne. So if you're using these treatments, be still more gentler with your scrubs, because it is definitely important to exfoliate, but not at at the risk of having a dry, irritated skin. So be gentle, space it out depending on the other factors that are in your treatment. And two home-based scrubs that I usually use myself as well, and also tell patients to use, are finely ground coffee mixed with honey serves as a very good exfoliator. And also sometimes if you use lemon with sugar, so sugar granules will exfoliate your skin and lemon will act as a lightening agent. So these are very good scrubs, and
also
really
give the vitamin C. Yeah,
definitely. So vitamin C acts as a very good lightening agent. So after you use that scrub, you suddenly see a brightness on your face, and it's also gentle on the skin, will not cause too much dryness. So this is what I usually recommend the patient to use. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, we are really having some good set of home remedies coming up here, and great tips from all of you here. So, as we are talking of this CTM and exfoliation, many patients come and ask me that, doctor, I have such oily skin. Should I still moisturize my skin? So, of course, I always tell them you should, but I want to hear it out from you guys as dermatologists. What do you tell them? That should they still moisturize their skin even if they have oily skin, or they shouldn't? So, Dr. Kruti, you could go first, and then we move on to Dr. Dimple.
Sure. So I firmly believe in the three-pillared skincare. The three pillars are face wash, moisturizer, and sunscreen. So whatever be the type of the skin, I always advise the use of a moisturizer. So even if you have an oily skin, I always advise to use a moisturizer, but definitely the type of moisturizer will vary. I advise more water-based moisturizers, oil-free moisturizers, which they need to apply. And it has to be applied maybe just once a day when the skin is a little on the drier side, and not as often as we would advise to apply in a dry skin. So this is the thing that I tell them, because what happens is that oil, though present on the skin, gives rise to a lot of acne. And when you're treating these acne with products, they give rise to a lot of dryness. So what happens in turn is that when you don't use a moisturizer, the patient refuses to even use the acne treatment, use treatment to remove the oil out. And it's important that we tell them that, the acne treatment is going to lead to a lot of dryness. Use a moisturizer once a day when required, so that you have a very healthy skin throughout the treatment as well. So this is a very important point that patients always ask, doctor, my skin is so oily, why should I use a moisturizer? So this is how I explain to them that no, you definitely need to use it, but use a little quantity and use an appropriate one.
Absolutely. Yes, Dr. Dimple, what would you tell them?
Yes. Oily skin patients also, I recommend a moisturizer, because they may have enough oil secretion, but they may not have the hydration. Because for a perfect skin barrier to function, they need a balance of oil and water. So oil is high, but the water content may be low because of various reasons like sun exposure, pollution, chemicals, being in the AC throughout the day. Plus, they are on isotretinoin or retinoid, so the dryness is caused because of our treatment. So a bedtime moisturizer, but a very light one, a gel-based moisturizer, oil-free, non-comedogenic. I tell them to look out for these words. Of course, I prescribe them the name. And a moisturizer containing hyaluronic acid, aloe vera, very light substances, So that would serve as a good moisturizing agent. But yes, they do need a moisturizer. And I tell them that the day you feel your skin is behaving oily, you can skip that night. It's not a must to use it every night. If your skin demands, then use it.
So absolutely. So reading labels is very, very important here too. Like you mentioned that, you have to understand that what's going into the product. That's what we actually teach them, to our patients who are on a diet plan also, that it's so important to read a label. Just if it's written fat-free or zero cholesterol doesn't mean that. So please go ahead and read labels. So I think reading label is very, very important, whether it is skin care, body care, whatever we want to do. So if we want to stay healthy, reading labels, guys, is something very, very important. A great tip by Dr. Dimple here. So I'll move on to Deepa. Deepa, since we are talking a lot about moisturizers and oily skin, so what is it, a natural form of moisturizer that you would want to suggest here for oily skin?
You see, if you're talking about a natural moisturizer, I think in this weather, I think aloe vera is great. Now, when we are like our aloe vera, when we are making aloe vera conditioning gel for Amira, we are adding a few essential oils to add more benefits to it. Like we are adding chamomile, papaya, and betaine sugars, which give a lot of hydration to the skin. So I think in this kind of weather, what I recommend is for toning a simple turmeric hydrosol, because hydrosols have got a pH which is very compatible to a human skin. Okay, like the right pH is around 5.5, that is slightly acidic for human skin. So I am recommending a lot of hydrosols at the moment which can be used as mist They give you hydration, they give you protection because they have some antibacterial properties, and they are not as potent as essential oils, though they are giving a lot of hydration, protection to your skin. Uh, don't go for very heavy butters like cocoa butter, shea butter, cocoa butter. There are many creams which I also recommend, but they should not be used at this time. But maybe, in coming winters, then I think a lot of butters, essential oils, and a good concoction or a cocktail of these essential oils, butters, and herbs make a beautiful cream for the skin.
So I have twin daughters, and my daughters love the rose mist. So, they are always with that bottle, spraying it on their face,
Yes,
because it
yes.
simply feels so good. You
Yeah,
feel so fresh after using it, and the
yes.
aroma of the rose is really, really so pleasant. So that just,
Yeah.
makes up, you suddenly they've come from out, and, they're feeling tired. They just spray the mist and they are all fine, and they feel
Yes.
so good. So I think what
Yeah.
you suggested definitely makes sense. And here
Yeah, you
I would
see,
like
rose
to ask
water.
you one more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You see, rose water is something which everybody uses for that cool and calm feeling. Just fresh yourself before anything.
Yes.
Turmeric
Yes.
hydrosol, which I'm working on right now, and I'm using it in many of my formulations as well. I find that it gives a lot of protection also to your skin. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, and along with protection, like in this kind of weather, when we are prone to different, skin infections, allergies,
Yes.
rashes,
Yes.
so it forms a good shield for your skin without any harmful effects of any chemicals. So, instead of using any ointment or anything which is pharma based, if you use a simple turmeric hydrosol, it has no side effects, nothing. It won't even dry your skin, and it will give that instant glow as well. So I am a strong
Wonderful.
believer, yeah, of hydrosols, which are a natural, like defense
Wonderful.
for the
Wonderful.
skin.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you did mention aloe vera, which is one of my favorites. So I think I have just been surviving on aloe vera. That's my
Hmm.
only go-to product that I generally stock at home. So I just have aloe vera at home, and that's, be it burns, be it allergies, be it anything. It's just aloe
Yes.
vera for me. So, that's
Yeah,
how wonderfully
exactly.
it works. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel, you sometimes do need medical treatments, because, it's not like everything is just going to be, corrected with what we are talking about naturally. As far as possible, we go the natural way, but when needed, I think medical treatments also need to be looked into. And here
Yeah.
I would want to ask you, I generally give a lot of tea tree oil to patients who have acne. So what is your take on that?
You see, a lot of people are buying tea tree oil and they're using tea tree oil for acne and breakouts. But I believe using a tea tree oil neat on your face it can lead to sensitivity, itching, allergies, and a bit of redness as well. So every essential oil, even if it is lavender, tea tree, or any of these very safe essential oils, they should always be diluted in a carrier oil, and carrier oil suitable to your skin,
Absolutely.
because yeah, if your skin is acne prone, then you have to use a non-comedogenic carrier oil. There are so many, like hemp oil is again my big time favorite, and then there are
Yes.
pomegranate
So
oils.
can we mix it with aloe vera gel? Can you mix it
Yes,
with aloe vera
always
gel
mix
and then
it. Yeah.
apply?
Yes, yes, of course. Mix it in your
Yeah,
gel
so
or
that's what I
a
suggest then, that you
lotion.
take aloe vera gel, just just put a drop of it and apply on the
Yes,
affected areas. That's what I generally
yes,
tell them. So that's what
yes.
I needed to know, whether I am doing it right for my patients, or am I going wrong somewhere. So I'm on the right
No,
track.
no,
Thank you for
but
helping.
I would like to give you a tip here as an aromatherapist.
Please,
With my experience
please
of
do.
working
Please
with
do.
essential oils, yeah, I feel rosemary oil has a better effect on acne than tea tree oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful tip from you there. And we are going to be going back to our dermatologist friends to ask them about adult acne, because we are talking of acne. Earlier we used to see acne breakouts in in teenagers and they who are just starting out with their puberty. But adult acne is very, very common, and today I see a lot of my women patients coming to me with adult acne, and they are like, जब भी आना चाहिए था तभी नहीं आया और अभी ये सब कहाँ से फूट रहा है. But and sometimes it gets very difficult for them to explain that how common it is, and it's so I want to ask both of you that what are the causes for adult acne? How frequently do you guys see adult acne? And what are your tips for adult acne to our patients who are going through this phase of adult acne? Yeah, Dr. Dimple.
Yes. So yeah, adult acne is a very common condition which we routinely see in our practice now, and it's mostly hormonal. So
Yes.
you have to counsel them that it's not going to just work by treating the acne. We need to investigate also whether you have any condition, underlying condition like polycystic ovarian disease or a thyroid or insulin resistance or any of these factors. So you have to explain them that we'll treat, but you have to investigate simultaneously. So we give them a routine investigation list, of the hormonal test, the sonography and all those things. And simultaneously we treat their acne with creams, benzoyl peroxide, adapalene and all the stuff. But counseling is very important because testing is very important. Yes.
Absolutely agreed to you. So that's what I have to counsel them, that, it's not like khali ab jab bhi, when you were your teenager, it will happen. It will happen in adulthood too. And, there are reasons, like you mentioned, hormonal imbalance is one of the major reasons. And that's what we try to correct with homeopathy. And definitely we work in consultation with both of you to see that our patients are on the road to recovery. Yes, Dr. Kruti, what is your take on this?
Yeah, so there has been a sudden spurt in the number of cases having
Yes.
adult acne. So there was a day in my OPD when all the patients that I saw were only of adult acne. So it was quite surprising, and I was wondering as to why this is happening today. So it is that rampant, along with the hormonal imbalances. That is the major cause of adult acne. There could also be stressors which are leading to more number of cases of adult acne. Stress is an integral part of all our lives. We live very fast lives. So I think that is one of the other causes, apart from what Dr. Dimple mentioned, that could be leading to so many cases of adult acne. So I always take time to, counsel the patient that though there are remedies available to treat your adult acne, it is going to take some time, but don't stress over it, because more the stress that you take over these things, more the incidence of acne. So that is something that I always tell them, and it really works. The trust that they get, that okay, this is going to be treated, it's going to resolve, it definitely helps them. At the same time, we have to resort to medical therapy. So when we investigate them and we find that the level of androgens are high in these patients, which could be the cause most of the times, we do have to give them birth control pills or anti-androgen medications like spironolactone, etc. And they usually tend to help in the control better than just the application of creams and the oral antibiotics.
Absolutely.
That is what I advise.
So yeah, so with this pandemic hitting us and under lockdown, as you mentioned, the stress generated out of the lockdown is so immense that it's not just the skin, but hair is taking a toll too. Because I see every other patient of mine complaining of hair fall, and it's like they really don't understand that why suddenly there is so much of hair fall and what is causing the hair fall. And sometimes we simply have to tell them it's just the pandemic effect, and they say aisa kaisa, but it's the stress that is generating out of being into this kind of an environment. We are not used to this situation. We are not used to be just staying indoors, not meeting people, in physical. There is so much of distancing. You are missing out on your favorite activities. This is actually, even though we are adapting to the new normal, but it is not normal, and the entire world is going through it. I think this stress generating is showing on the skin and hair, and that's where you guys come in again. Have you seen hair fall cases rise due to this pandemic?
Oh, yes, definitely. So now every time a patient calls me, so they have, the first query is, Doctor, why is this happening? This has never happened to me. And not only me, my relatives, my friends, my neighbors, why do we all have? So I simply tell them it's a pandemic of hair fall as well, along with pandemic of corona. And that
Very true, very
pacifies them
true.
to some extent. They start believing in what I'm saying, because as we all know that it is definitely stress related. It's not that there's
Yes,
anything wrong with their bodies, but stress is a major cause
absolutely.
of telogen effluvium is what we all are experiencing at the moment. And I think nobody is exempt from it. Everybody from all strata, everyone is facing it. And that's what I tell them, that don't stress over the hair fall, because the more you stress over the hair fall, the more hair you lose. So just have a good nutritious diet, have good supplements, and make sure that you're applying lotions, also oiling your hair for conditioning, and that should see you through. And I usually advise them that it takes 3 months for the hair growth to occur
Hmm,
again,
hmm,
and for the hair to
hmm.
stop falling. So when you advise them, when you tell them, you give them that time period, then they tend to understand it better. And I think they probably take less stress also, because I was very happy yesterday when a patient messaged me and said that, Doctor, 3 months are up. So I thought, okay, now she's going to tell me it's not helping or what, because the way she had started. But she said, Doctor, my hair fall is gone. I'm feeling better. So
Wow.
I was like, oh, that's amazing. Because I had advised her that don't stress. If you stress, then we can't do anything. But this was definitely a very
Absolutely.
positive feedback. So yeah, it is definitely going to stop
Absolutely.
for all of us.
So that's such a wonderful note that it's definitely going to stop for all of us. That really makes you feel good that it's just a temporary phase that we all are into, and probably the more we accept this, the COVID is here to stay. It's not like it's going to go away in a month or two, probably a year and a half or more. We don't know. Nobody has the answer to when the COVID is going to go, but we definitely know that it is here to stay for a while, and sooner we get in sync with the situation, though it is very hard, very difficult for all of us. It's not like either we are also happy having empty consultation rooms. We are not. We want our patients back, of course. Sitting with them and chatting with them live. I mean, it's even though you're doing a phone consultation or a video consultation, it's not the same as meeting your patients face to face and talking to them and handing out medicine. So definitely, we also want this time to just go away very fast. But till that happens, the good news is the hair fall is going to stop. So that's wonderful. Deepa, here I want you to tell us that what are the products that you could use for hair care in terms to if we are all facing this sudden pandemic effect of hair fall. So of course we
Yeah.
all know that it's due to stress, but if there are some natural products that could really help, even little prevents the hair fall, I think we would be really more happy to have them.
Yes, yes, Dr. Modi. Right now, I think everybody is going through such stressful and difficult times that like our hair is also freaking out because of that. So, what I recommend here is that first switch over to sulfate free shampoos, because don't use any harsh cleansers for your hair who are already bearing the brunt of the stress, because your mind, your brain is always so tied up thinking and reading about the pandemic all the time. So you need to use sulfate free shampoos, which is my recommendation, a good sulfate free shampoos. Because a lot of people, they just look for the ingredients. No, there are no sulfate, but there may be another compound of sulfate present in the shampoo. So just be a good label reader and see the ingredients, and then buy a good quality shampoo. Secondly,
So generally,
conditioning your hair.
parabens and sulfate is something that we tell our patients not to use. So we
Yes,
tell them that go ahead and read for parabens and read for sulfates, and try
sulfates,
and see
yeah.
that your shampoo doesn't have that. So then
Yes,
you may
yes,
be good to go. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
So sulfate free
wonderful.
shampoos is one thing. Secondly, keep on conditioning your hair, because the way we are hydrating our face, similarly our hair shafts, they also need some kind of nourishment and hydration in the form of conditioning. Okay, so we have got beautiful conditioners who are silicone free. Again, silicone is again a chemical. It won't let your hair scalp breathe. So switch over to natural conditioners. Okay, protein based. And then of course beautiful aromatherapy essential oils which help to calm down and as well as help to combat your hair loss. Like there are beautiful oils which will we have
So,
grapefruit oil, we have rosemary which is again beautiful for hair, lavender, and nice carrier oils like castor oil, olive oil, argan oil. These are some beautiful oils which can give a good sheen to your hair and also look at the hair fall. So I think you can switch over to good hair
so it
oils.
generally we suggest something that, yeah, something that even has jaborandi, because it's a homeopathic medicine, of course, but
Yes,
it works
yes,
wonderfully well on hair. So jaborandi is something that I generally ask my patients to have a look at, and whenever they are
yes,
buying
yes,
some hair products, because it really
yes,
works very well for your hair.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
yeah,
So
so
that's wonderful because all these herbs and medicinal plants, they treat any kind of skin or hair problem from inside, and it's a holistic approach towards hair and skincare rather than only looking at,
absolutely,
oh, yeah, the hair fall. You're just looking at, you have to just see to the hair, just use any shampoo and suddenly your hair looks good and bouncy just because of the silicone in it, but it's temporary.
absolutely,
But what we need to
absolutely.
give is a complete nourishment to the scalp and the hair. So I believe aromatherapy works very well in that.
Absolutely. And yes, I do believe that aromatherapy really works well for, your hair, skin. Otherwise, generally for your health too. So that's really, really a great tip that you've shared in terms of using essential oils, aromatherapy, SLS paraben-free products. So that's really wonderful. Dr. Kruti, Dr. Dimple, I would just want to ask you guys, do you think humidity, the increased humidity may be one of the factors, because given that suddenly the humidity levels have increased and we are all indoors, so the vitamin D is going low, so could that be affecting our skin and our hair? What is your take on that?
Yes, humidity definitely plays a certain amount of role in causing hair fall in the sense that because of the increased humidity, there are high chances of getting dandruff in the hair. Seborrheic
Yes,
dermatitis
yes,
happens often, and because of that, the roots are damaged because of the dandruff flakes, attached to the roots, and because of that, hair fall could be happening. Secondly, because of the increased humidity, you tend to get more acne also on the face. So that is one of the
yes,
reasons why we see so much of acne coming up in summers, and they blame the poor mango for causing the acne. But it's the increased humidity which is causing the acne and the seborrheic dermatitis. So that leads to hair fall definitely. And in the rains, even more because of the humidity and the rain drenching your hair and the acid and all those pollutants getting into your hair, your hair becomes frizzy, and frizzy hair breaks easily. It's more brittle. So we see these problems during monsoons also.
yeah, Dr. Kruti, could you share your tips on this, please?
Yeah, so definitely humidity leads to hair fall, is what we've seen every monsoon for that matter. Because when you tend to accidentally get wet in the rain and your hair roots are absorbing a lot of water, leading to a lot of breakage and hair fall, that is known. It's a very well known phenomenon. This time, yes, lack of vitamin D very much could be the reason that we are getting so much hair fall. That is a very, very important factor. So when we give supplements, we make sure that along with calcium, vitamin D is also supplemented to the patients so that the nutrition will help them overcome. And yes, because of the humidity, the hair is quite limp, also gets very frizzy. Because of the increased oiliness, there is increased incidence of all the pollutants and the grime settling in the scalp, leading to dandruff, fungal infections, and also at times lice. So now, though there is social distancing and we are not meeting many people, so lice is under control. But otherwise, when we usually tie up wet hair, lice is something that we see many times in school-going children. Many patients come in a row with these things. So I always advise the patient that whatever it is, if you get accidentally wet in the rains, make sure that you go home, wash your hair with shampoo, condition it well, and dry it thoroughly. Don't leave your wet hair open. Don't comb your hair when it's wet because it's really brittle when it's wet. Use a white tooth comb to comb your hair to prevent the tangling. So detangle it. That is very important. So these are the few things that I always share every monsoon, and it should be definitely followed that clean, dry scalp will lead to less hair fall and less dandruff and other problems.
Absolutely true. So, we are having some small great tips which can be actually applied to your everyday hair care and skin care. So this is adding so much value to the viewers. I'm sure they are taking back so much home, and so much of knowledge exchange happening here. So here, when we are talking of hair care, skin care, often these millennials who come to me, they are so wary of applying oil to their hair. It's like, eeks, they'll just make that face, "Arey baba, oil karna hai," kind of a thing. And so then you really have to tell them that oiling is important because it's going to really, nourish their hair. And it's not just the oil that does the trick, it's more of the massage happening in your scalp that is going to push in that more circulation, more oxygen, which is going to strengthen your roots. So what do you guys tell these millennials in terms of your hair care, oiling their hair and how to go about it?
See, one
Yeah,
thing.
Dr. Kruti.
Okay, Dr. Dimple, please pick it up.
It's okay. So,
that's okay.
So in the younger generation,
Yeah.
most of the times if they come with seborrheic dermatitis, we don't tell them to put oil
Yeah.
because oil could aggravate their dandruff. But I tell them to apply
Yes.
oil on the length of their hair because that is where they need the moisture and the oil. That's where they need where the hair is frizzy. So for the younger generation, I tell them that even if their parents are forcing them, just apply it for half an hour to 1 hour before shampooing, not to leave it overnight ever. But for the elderly and the past 30s and 40s, for that age when the scalp is dry, when the hair is dry, then oiling becomes a must. But for the younger generation, I'm not so fond of prescribing oils because that aggravates acne and dandruff. That's we have seen because when they leave it overnight, all the oil comes on the pillow, and from the pillow it goes on their face and blocks the pores. So that's how I manage. Yeah, Dr.
Wonderful. Yes, Dr. Kruti, how do you look at it and how do you manage it?
So I usually humor the young generation, and I don't argue with them that no, you need to put oil every day. I advise them that oiling is good for conditioning, so you need to apply it on the length of the hair. No need to apply it on the scalp, but you can do it only maybe once or twice a week, just 2 hours before your hair wash. And that will help. That will be enough nourishment for your hair because it is not doing anything to really grow the hair. It's basically just for conditioning. So I let them be. When an older, a person with in an older age group is asking me, I tell them that if you are in the habit of oiling your hair every day, go ahead. Just make sure that you're washing your hair more often because sometimes people have a habit of washing their hair only maybe once a week. So that is not enough. You need to wash your hair ideally twice or thrice a week, depending on the oiliness of your scalp. So that is what I tell them, that make sure that you're at least washing more often. And if you have dandruff, start using OTC shampoos which contain zinc pyrithione, like Head and Shoulders and all, they contain zinc pyrithione. If it is helping them, well and good. So maybe once a week they can use an anti-dandruff shampoo and the remaining twice they can use a regular shampoo. But if it is not helping, then I usually tell them that come back to me. You need a prescription-based shampoo to treat the dandruff, because if you just continue to apply the hair oil and not wash your hair and not treat your dandruff, you're defeating the purpose of putting oil. So that is what I usually
absolutely. And I feel, yeah. Yeah. So, and generally, if you're oiling it too frequently and too much, also you'll need that much more product to remove it also. So that in turn, again, is not a very good situation. So I think everything in balance is going to work well. And sometimes, like you rightly said, even I just let them be and I tell them it's okay if you don't want to oil your hair. Just leave it the way it is. Like, and if your mama insists, once in a week, at least, for her sake, just sit with her so that you have your mama-daughter time and you have make the most of the bonding between the two of you. So it's not just a time, just application, but it's a bonding time too, is what I look at it. That's how I look at it. And when you tell them this, they are more happy doing it, because they feel, this is good. Now mama will massage my hair. That's excellent. Matlab massage milega. So that's what we try and tell them. Yeah. So, but as you rightly said, it does flare up the acne and it does flare up the dandruff, and the stickiness also increases if they leave it on for a long period of time. Because what happens is there's so much in the race and the rut of not having time, because everything is last minute. There's nothing planned. So tail lagaya hai, lekin next day dhone ka time hi nahi hai. So then it just stays on for a couple of days. So that's even more harmful, to them. So here I think they need more of time management than anything else. But having said that, coming back to acne, what we generally see is, adult acne or acne for that matter leaves sometimes bad scarring. So what do you do that no scars appear, because you many times see that, there's a lot of scarring on the face, and that's what's, you don't want to happen. So how do you avoid the scarring?
So,
Yeah, Dr. Kruti.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, the first thing when the patient comes to me, I take time to counsel them. I tell them that, I draw a diagram, I show it to them as to why you're getting the acne. So I tell them that though the main cause is the oiliness of your skin, there is more oil being secreted. So the oil is being secreted because now you've achieved your puberty in case they are younger, and the hormones are acting on your oil glands. And as a result of which, there's so much oil secretion. But still, there is an entire process that is happening in this, wherein there is an inflammation in the skin. So if you break your acne, you're going to cause more inflammation in the skin and push it down deeper into your skin. So don't touch your acne, don't break your acne, because that is the only way in which you will induce scarring and also the marks. And I tell them that I can easily control your acne, but to control your marks and scars is very difficult for me. So help me in this. I have no medicine which will stop your hand from going onto your skin. That you have to do yourself. So when you put the onus on them, when you put the responsibility on them, they understand it better. And that's how I usually, prevent scarring. So this is one of the aspects, but sometimes there is so much inflammation in the skin because of the inherent factors of the skin. That is the time we need to give them medications. We need to give them oral medications, isotretinoin, also resort to peels, the chemical peels with salicylic acid, etc. And that would help to reduce the amount of scarring that they would get. So this is how I usually prevent. And once it has happened, then yes, counseling that we can treat this. It will take time. It is not a rapid process, so give it time. And usually doing treatments like derma rollers or micro needling radio frequencies does help them with the scars to a very great extent. Because scars are definitely, something which lowers the self-esteem of that individual.
Yes.
So we definitely need to address the scars, because when they come to you, they're not so bothered about their acne, but their scars, because they know they are more permanent. So we definitely.
Yes. So it's not just external, but it is the internal mechanism, like, how it's going to affect their confidence, their self-esteem, as you rightly said, that matters the most. So it's going to be like, acne aayega, chala bhi jayega, but your low self-esteem and your confidence to build it up again takes a very, very long time. So Dr. Dimple, what do you suggest? What are the ways that we should look at it?
Yeah, so counseling is important. No popping, no squeezing your acne. And secondly, I also start a face wash containing salicylic acid or a glycolic acid. So side by side, the skin is getting exfoliated while, the acne is healing. Also, simultaneously, we start on alternate nights retinoid derivatives like retinoic acid along with the adapalene. So, on one hand, the acne is getting treated, and the other hand, the scar is also coming under control. And plus, chemical peels work excellent. So, glycolic, salicylic, lactic, mandelic acid peels, where we apply a solution and then neutralize it with plain water. So the skin gets exfoliated. So it's like a chemical exfoliating method. So these work very well. And then derma roller, derma pens, MNRF, are lasers. There are so many things which we treat once the scars are not budging, from the regular treatment. So that's how
Absolutely.
we go.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I mean, one thing what I have realized is that दादी माँ के टाइम से बोल रहे इसको फोड़ना नहीं, इसको फोड़ना नहीं has an absolute medical reason, and that's what they should take home today. At least अगर ये एक टिप भी उन्होंने बांध लिया अपने साथ, so I think our panel discussion is going to be really fruitful, because I have always seen teenagers having that tendency to just remove that zit. I don't know what fun they get out of it, but yeah, they have to do it. And it's just, I feel it's like a reflex, the moment it pops up, they want to slowly, and they'll look around, nobody's looking, and they just want to, remove it off. That's what I've seen doing them. And I think we have a tough time convincing them not to do it. But like Dr. Kruti rightly said, put it on them, put the onus on them. And the next time they come to you, you have to tell them, "Foda na, isliye hua."
I tell them that though I'm asking you whether you're picking, but I know that you're picking because I can see it. I always tell them that. But then they are also quite conscious, and they don't.
Yes,
that really helps.
And yeah, absolutely, and they're quite responsible that way. But it's just that you really have to counsel them well and befriend them rather than telling them as a doctor. Once you are telling them in a friendly way, they do listen to you. So it's not that they don't listen to us, but yeah, you have to make that effort to put it into their head. बेजे में डालने को थोड़ा टाइम लगता है, उतना ही है, but जाता है for sure. So on this note, what next our viewers wanted to know, many of them have raised this question of dark circle under the eyes. So I think you guys must be answering this question, I don't know how many times, but again, once more, we want to hear it from you, that what do you do? I see the skin area around the eye is so thin, and you have to be so careful with it, and with the time of screen time that we spoke about, the late nights that we spoke about, the Netflix binging that we are seeing nowadays. So what dark circle to aana hi hai, obvious hai, but yeah, so what do you do about it? What are the precautions that you take, and what are the few remedies that you suggest for these dark circles? Dr. Dimple, if you would like to go first.
Yes. So once we've explained them the different causes which could lead, so then they know where their cause is coming. Like, as you mentioned, lack of sleep, stress, too much of screen time. And but of course, the other causes we also tell them, a low hemoglobin can lead to dark circles, a B12 deficiency. Yes. All these are more serious causes which they need to address with multivitamin tablets. And also allergies. Sometimes when they have atopic dermatitis and they have a lot of eczemas around the eye area, so that, and constant cold, and also that leads to puffiness, and then later leads to pigmentation. So we have to analyze each patient differently, why they have developed the dark circles. For some, it could be hereditary. For some, sometimes lack of proper diet, stress, all these things. So then what we do is we give them creams, of course, under eye creams. If they have a vitamin deficiency, we give them a vitamin tablet or an iron tablet. And then along with the creams containing kojic acid, hydroquinone, licorice, glycolic acid, these are some of the skin lightening ingredients. Vitamin C serums work well around the eyes. So that also helps. And give an antioxidant, like containing vitamin A, C, something internally. And treatments like chemical peels, very gentle peels containing mandelic acid, lactic acid, arginine. All these peels work very well in exfoliating the upper layer and renewing the skin. Plus other treatments like there are Q-switched lasers which work when done very carefully, can also work around the eyes. Mesotherapy. There are other lot of treatments, fillers, injections, all these can be done below the eyes. but ultimately they have to improve their lifestyle. No alcohol,
Absolutely.
smoking, because all these are contributing factors in young adults these days.
So you saying no alcohol, they are going to just stop the live now and run away.
Yeah, reduce it.
लॉकडाउन में अल्कोहल भी नहीं पिएंगे तो हम क्या करेंगे? Next they're going to ask us. Jokes apart, yeah, Dr. Kruti, what would you like to tell them?
Yeah, so Dr. Dimple has really summarized it quite well. So there are a few things that I would like to add to this is that I've often seen dark circles in young women who wear makeup daily. So they do
Yes.
not remove the kajal or the liner well. And they just tend to rub it off, and the pigment settles over and over again every day, and then they come with really dark circles. And when you get into the history, you realize that this is the thing that they are doing. So then I always advise them that use micellar water to remove your makeup. That really helps in removing the liner and the kajal well. Also, there was an interesting case where she had an allergy resulting into dark circle to nail paint varnish. So she would apply nail paints, and she would make different movements with her fingers onto her under eyes, and
Same.
she had developed allergy to that. So getting into the history with in a person with dark circles is really important to elicit as to why the dark circle is existing. Definitely late night, screen time, stress, a very important part. Along with that, we also see that some people anatomically have deep set sunken eyes. So in these people, under the eyes, they have these grooves which we call the tear troughs. And these cast a shadow under the eye, making the dark circles look much more darker than they really are. So sometimes there may not really be a lot of pigmentation, but it's just because of this anatomical error, or I would say anatomical problem rather, that they have a very prominent dark circle. So correction of these tear troughs do really help, and that is where we use the fillers. So fillers are basically hyaluronic acid gels, which are used in the form of an injection into your under eye area. And they last for around 10 to 12 months, and slowly the body wears this gel off because it is a normal constituent of the skin. And this really helps in making a lot of difference to the dark circles of a patient who has these kind of grooves under the eyes. So that is one of the things I always check for in a patient, advise them accordingly, give them the clear picture as to, I always tell them that dark circles cannot be treated 100%. It has to be supported by you with a lot of lifestyle modifications. Just from my end, if I'm giving you creams, it's not going to work. So if both of us have to go hand in hand, and then your dark circles will definitely remedy. Also, chemical peels, Q-switch lasers are definitely a good way of treating them, and they have proved to have very good results also. So this is how I treat the dark circles.
Absolutely. So when my patients are not going to be responding to, the cucumber and the tea bags, I know what is next in store for them and where they have to go. So that's wonderful tips. We are going to move to Deepa and ask her for some aromatherapy tips on this. Oh, I think we've lost Deepa. Okay. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Deepa. No, we can't find her. No worries. So, generally I tell them to apply a little of tomato juice and cucumber juice, just, because it really helps a bit in the initial stages. Of course, if there is some other reason to it, you have to treat the cause. Unless and until you don't treat the cause, the circles are not going to go. So with lifestyle changes, as you both rightly said, I think they're good to go with their puffiness and the dark circles under the eyes. The next, what we see is, during pregnancy mainly, we see a lot of changes that happen in the hormones in the body of a woman, So during this time, what are the products that you should not use becomes very important, because sometimes the products, it's not just the mother, but now you are responsible for another life too. So what are the products that you say should not be used during pregnancy? Dr. Kruti, if you would like to go first, please.
Sure. So usually in pregnancy, there are 2-3 problems that commonly arise, and we get patients for these issues related to skin, A is acne. So pregnancy is a hormonal condition where there are different hormones acting on the body, and it gives rise to a lot of acne. So there are a lot of patients who come asking for treatment for acne in pregnancy, but it's very important to understand as to which products to give them, because most of the acne products are either category X or category C. So we really need to be very careful on not giving them retinoids, not giving them benzoyl peroxides, no salicylic acid based products. So if they were having acne before and using salicylic acid based face washes, get into the history and tell them to discontinue those. That forms a very important part. And I usually tell them that I know it's not looking cosmetically, becoming. It's not nice, but wait for the first trimester to end. Do not hurry to use any products. So usually in the first trimester, I tell them a blanket no that please wait for some time. In the second trimester, it's safe to give them azelaic acid gels, which are very widely prescribed nowadays, and they're very effective as well. So that is what I usually give them. The other products that we usually do not use in them is, I tell them that in the first trimester, if you do not use hair dyes, it will be really nice, because hair dyes sometimes also contain agents which are not to be used when a person is pregnant, even formaldehyde, there is dihydroacetone, etc. So a lot of products. So I usually tell them not to do that. And also when they are using aluminium chloride in the form of deodorants or antiperspirants, that is something that I tell them that you must discontinue if you're pregnant. It's not to be used. So these are different products that I tell them not to use. And usually the patients do listen, but there are some times when we have had to resort to even peels to calm down the inflammatory acne that they've had. So the only peel that is safe is lactic acid peel, because it is milk based. So that can be done. Glycolic acid is also safe, but better, as much as we can avoid, we try to avoid. So these are my recommendations for pregnancy.
Yes, Dr. Dimple, what do you suggest? What are your tips for pregnancy and acne or skincare?
So retinoids, absolute no, because acne and stretch marks, both we usually use to prescribe retinoids. But in pregnancy, both are absolute no. It has got teratogenic effects and birth defects in the child. So that is an absolute no. Antibiotics, not in the first trimester at all. At the most, azithromycin after the third trimester, after the first trimester is done, then you counsel the patient that wait for some time. This is part and parcel of the hormone changes of pregnancy. And of course, treatment wise, also no peels except for glycolic acid or lactic acid. And sometimes these women, they are so used to, sometimes they ask for whether they can go for facials. And I tell them, no, nothing to do with any machines, because even machines used in pregnancy is not allowed. So if they are planning a pregnancy and they come for laser hair removal, I tell them no, absolutely no, because you will just go halfway and then you will have to discontinue the laser treatment, because in pregnancy, it's not going to be allowed. So I tell them, wait for the child to be born, give priority to that, and the rest of the cosmetic things can be taken care of once your baby is out. So absolute no, we are very conservative. Absolutely. And the gynecologists are even more conservative. So no tetracycline antibiotics, no isotretinoin, nothing of those things.
Absolutely. It's said, that it's the most beautiful phase of women's life. And, ek to natural glow aise hi aata hai because you're eating right and having a healthy lifestyle. So half the problems are sorted there itself, because you become more conscious and more mindful about each and everything that you're doing. So having come to this phase, we wouldn't want to miss on the menopausal women, because I'm sure they have their skin issues and hair issues too, because there's a lot of hormonal, imbalance or hormonal issues that a menopausal women goes through, So a lot of pigmentation is often seen when you are just entering your premenopause or your menopause, and especially on the cheek area is where you see it more, like like a butterfly thing that comes up sometimes. So and then they get very conscious. So you have your mood swings and you're not feeling too good about yourself, and suddenly all these things coming up on your face, it really kills the self-esteem, your self-confidence, and you're emotionally drained. So then how do you deal with all this when it comes to you, or when they come to you for skincare? What do you advise them?
Yeah, so for menopausal women, the commonest problem is, of course, pigmentation, as you said, but also a lot of dry skin. So first, let us
Yes.
start with pigmentation. That is called melasma, or the butterfly patch, what you said. And that's mostly hormonal because of the menopause, which is setting in, and the hormones, estrogen dips down, and the testosterone is imbalanced, and all those stuff. So you have to advise them to use a good sunscreen when they are much younger, and if they have come to you when they are at a younger age, to prevent this melasma
Yes.
from happening at a later stage. So what skincare they have taken 5 to 10 years back will count now. But if they've already developed melasma, then you probably will again advise them sunscreen use, skin lightening creams containing hydroquinone and kojic acid, licorice, and all those stuff, antioxidants, a healthy diet. And we also give tranexamic acid, 250 milligram, which is an agent which was used by gynecologists to stop excessive menstrual blood flow. But they found it extremely effective in lightening pigmentation due to melasma and other causes. So that is one thing which we have included recently in our.
I was not aware of this. This I was not aware of. So I think I also learned something new today. That's really wonderful.
Yeah. And of course,
Yeah.
moisturizing is extremely important, and sunscreen use even when they are indoors, when they are front of the laptop, mobile, all the time. So that plays a major role. And then treatments as usual, chemical peels and lasers and all, they are just adjuvants.
Of course. Yeah, Dr. Kruti, what is it that you would want to suggest for them?
So when we see menopausal women, the most striking feature is definitely the dryness. And also because of the dryness and the sun exposure that they've had all their lives, probably accumulated sun exposure, it results in photoaging. So there are a lot of fine lines and wrinkles that are seen on the face. There is sagging of the face, drooping of the eyebrows, hair becomes more brittle and thinned out. So all these are the changes that a menopausal woman is going through, along with obviously the hot flashes and other, emotional disturbances that a person is going through. So they are in a very labile stage where we need to handle them very carefully. So I always tell them that we will do treatments for you. We will do everything that is possible to correct your lines and wrinkles. But remember one thing, that you must definitely hydrate your skin. That forms a very important part. I explained to them that now your female sex hormones are not they're not present. They are not helping your body to be as it was before. So dryness is setting in. Also, there is breakdown of collagen, there is breakdown of elastin because of the lack of hormones, and as a result of which your skin is losing elasticity. So it is definitely going to take time to correct these things, and only slowly and steadily will we be able to correct these. Also, they show a lot of freckles or lentigens and a lot of age spots, as we call them. So sunscreen use is optimum. Treatment of these spots is also definitely what we advise. But along with that, a perimenopausal or a menopausal woman requires a lot of therapies in the forms of, if they want to do it, in the forms of Botox, fillers, even skin tightenings. So these are all the things that we offer to them. But it definitely then depends on how a person, their profession or their social circles, as to what they really choose. But the basic
Absolutely.
step is 100% following a skincare routine where you use a gentle cleanser, because the pH of the skin is also changed once you reach a certain age. So you use a cleanser which is gentle on your skin. Use a moisturizer which is a little more creamier than before, probably from what they were using. Use it more often in a day. That is important. And a sunscreen also, we don't tell them to use an oil-free sunscreen. It is a regular sunscreen, more physical sunscreens if possible. Avoid the use of chemical sunscreens. So in terms of skincare, this is what we advise. And yes, hair care, have good nutrients, follow a well-balanced diet, have more of proteins, vitamins, iron, calcium in your diet. Sometimes we need to give them supplements. We do that. And we also advise use of lotions containing peptides, so the hair growth is kept optimum. Use a conditioner every time you shampoo. So this is the skin and hair care knowledge that I give to a perimenopausal woman, and then usually things get better.
Absolutely. I think we've had some wonderful discussions around skincare, hair care. It's been almost 1 hour, 15 minutes that we guys have been chatting, and you guys have really added so much value, and such great tips have been shared by the two of you. Unfortunately, we've lost Deepa, but she too added a lot of value in terms of essential oils and aromatherapy and natural ways of maintaining your skin and hair. So a big thank you to all of you. It was really great chatting with you. I lost actually count of time, and while now that I'm seeing the time, I realize, acha, itna bach gaya, kind of a thing. So a big thank you to all our panelists, and thank you so much for coming on board, sharing in depth such great tips and such lovely tips. I'm sure our patients now know that, at what point should you be looking for what, and what is the correct time to go to a dermatologist. It's not like everything you just Google and you'll get all your answers and you'll understand the cause for a dark circle or for your pigmentation or for anything. Google करने पे बहुत सारा कुछ आएगा, लेकिन आपको क्या है वो आपका डॉक्टर ही बताएगा. So it's best to approach your specialist and take proper treatment from them when needed. And as it's rightly said, your health is in your hands is what we all aim for you. Stay healthy, stay happy is what we wish for you. And on that note, goodbye, take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.